Welcome to The Explainer. We're diving headfirst into one of the biggest questions of our time. What if we could actually design our future children? Today, we're going to break down the science, the arguments, and, the incredible stakes of editing our own DNA.
Think about it for a second. It's a question that feels like it's straight out of a sci-fi movie, but it is rapidly becoming a real-world dilemma. The technology to edit the very building blocks of life, well, it's here. And it's forcing all of us to confront some really difficult choices.
The tool at the heart of all this is called CRISPR-Cas9. The easiest way to think about it is like a pair of molecular scissors. It can go into our DNA, find a very specific gene, make a super precise cut, and then either remove or replace it. Now, this holds incredible promise for treating genetic diseases, but it also, opens the door to something way more controversial.
And that brings us to this really crucial ethical line in the sand. On one side, you've got therapy, using CRISPR to cure diseases like cystic fibrosis or sickle cell anemia. And honestly, most people are on board with that. It's a good thing. But on the other side, you have enhancement, using that exact same tool to go beyond what's medically necessary, to boost intelligence or strength or other traits. And this is where the debate really heats up.
So, to see how this pretty abstract debate gets very, very real, let's zoom in on a specific place, the hyper-competitive city-state of Singapore. It gives us this unique window into how these technologies might actually play out in the real world.
You see, Singapore's entire economic and social structure is built on the quality of its people. It has no natural resources, so its success depends entirely on human capital. This has created this intensely competitive culture, famous for tiger parenting, and this societal mindset they call kiasu, which is this deep-seated fear of losing out. All of this makes it really fertile ground for the allure of genetic enhancement.
And check this out. The numbers really illustrate the point. When people were surveyed, public approval for using gene editing to enhance a baby's intelligence is way higher in Singapore at 48% compared to just 34% in the United States. Now, it's still not a majority, but that difference, it really shows you how much culture shapes our view of this technology.
Okay, so what is the argument for this technology? Why is it so seductive, especially in a place like Singapore? Well, the ideas behind it are pretty powerful, and honestly, they're presented as being perfectly rational.
So the main argument is framed as a matter of reproductive freedom. It's called consumer eugenics. And the whole idea is that in a free market, parents should have the right to select the best possible traits for their children. It's pitched as this gentler, friendlier alternative to the awful state-sponsored eugenics of the past.
And this is backed up by a really powerful philosophical concept called procreative beneficence. It basically argues that if you have the ability to choose, you actually have a moral obligation to pick the child who is likely to have the best life, with the most advantages. It completely reframes genetic enhancement from just being a choice to being a parental duty.
Okay, I'll admit that sounds pretty rational, right? Maybe even responsible. But when we start to really examine the science and the social consequences, the whole foundation of this argument starts to show some really serious cracks.
And this is what's so fascinating. The entire scientific premise that consumer eugenics is built on, it's just deeply flawed. It's based on a total misunderstanding of how genetics and evolution actually work.
So we have this common idea that evolution is like a ladder, right? Always climbing up, moving towards a better or perfected human. But that's not science at all. In reality, evolution is this messy, aimless process. Fitness doesn't mean you're stronger or smarter. It just means you're better adapted to have babies in a specific environment at a specific time. So here's the crucial point. There's really no such thing as a good or a bad gene in some absolute sense. The classic example is the gene variant that causes sickle cell anemia. If you have 2 copies, it's a terrible disease. But if you only have 1 copy, it gives you powerful life-saving resistance to malaria. So a bad gene in one context is actually a good gene in another.
And because there is no objective better, genetic enhancement starts to look a lot less like medicine and a whole lot more like doping in sports. It becomes an attempt to get an unfair advantage in the game of life, creating a playing field that is anything but level and frankly contradicts our basic ideas of fairness. And once that scientific foundation cracks, a whole cascade of potential harms just becomes visible. This slide lists 10 of them, and they go way beyond the obvious. Of course, you've got the risk of making inequality and discrimination worse, but think about the less obvious dangers. The psychological harm you could do to the enhanced child, or even speeding up a nation's population decline. Its parents wait and wait for the perfect genetic options.
So this all brings us to the final and maybe the most important question of all. What kind of society are we actually trying to build here? And what values do we really want to champion for the future?
At its very core, the push for enhancement is selling an ideology of genetic determinism, this belief that our DNA is our destiny, that our success or failure in life is basically hardwired from birth. It suggests that who we are is written in our genes, not in our efforts or our character.
But that idea just flies in the face of deeply held human values you find in cultures all over the world. Take the Confucian ethos, which is so central to societies like Singapore. It's built on the idea that diligence, hard work, and self-improvement are what truly shape a person's life and success, not the genetic lottery they happen to win.
And yet, here's the great paradox. Even with all these scientific and ethical risks, the relentless competition between global powers could easily push nations to adopt this technology. The fear of being left behind on the world stage, well, it might just override every other concern.
And so, that's where we're left, with a pretty provocative choice. As we're standing here on this new frontier, what's going to guide us? Is it going to be our deeply held values about fairness and hard work? Or is it going to be our fear of losing that ultimately makes the decision for us?